play right, cause they can't miss. All about the game, that's a cold switch. Serving up the truth, call it ruthless. Tune in and get your fix from Blake and Vish Sports.
And the first one is kind of the big news that's just has a huge ripple effect on the whole NFL at this point and how the season's going to shape up. And that is the Broncos. They traded Von Miller to the Los Angeles Rams, and in exchange, they got a second-round pick and a third-round pick in 2022, so this upcoming draft. And the Broncos are paying $9 million of his roughly $9.7 million salary cap. So he's playing. The Rams are paying pennies on the dollar for him of his salary. But Vish, I wanted to start with you. What do you think of this trade, and does this put the Rams as the best team in the league?
So I don't know if it puts them in the best team of the league. I think that it gives them a better shot to win the Super Bowl. I already think the Rams were amongst a few teams in that conversation. I mean, you want to go down the list, starting off with Tampa Bay, Buffalo, of course, Dallas, Green Bay, your team, Arizona, Rams. I would say those are the 6 teams that look really, really, really good 8 weeks into this NFL season. So what I think that Von Miller to the Rams does is I think it helps them better match up with all of these teams. I think that the Rams have had to blitz a lot this year, which is something that, you don't prefer to do in the modern NFL, especially because of the teams I named. Green Bay's got an incredible offense, and Dallas has an incredible offense, and Tampa Bay has an unstoppable offense. And Mina Kimes actually brought this up, and it's really interesting, right? The best way to stop quarterbacks in the modern NFL, right, is rush 4, drop 8, and play too high, and force these guys to check the ball down underneath. It gives you the best opportunities to maximize just covering these people because it gives you the best coverage versatility. Well, to rush 4, you have to be able to create pressure with 4 guys, and the Rams have been able to do that the last 7 years with 4 guys, basically because Aaron Donald is one guy that needs 3 guys to block him. So whoever's around him is able to create pressure. Well, now they have a guy who's the best pass rusher even today at 33 that Aaron Donald's ever played with. He's better than a prime Fowler. He's better than Clay Matthews, Leonard Floyd, all of them. I think Von Miller is still really, really good, especially if you look at what he was doing at the beginning of this season. They're going to be able to rush 4. I think I don't think this makes them like for sure the best team in the NFL. Like, it's really difficult to say that, but I do think it moves the needle towards their favor, where it gives them another opportunity in the playoffs or against one of these really, really good teams, where now they have 3 Hall of Fame players on their defense to go with their offense, which has obviously been clicking from week 1 and is just going bananas every week.
Definitely. So I'm kind of with you there. So I just wanted to touch on the Broncos side of things first, because I feel like a lot of people are really down on them, and I mean, rightfully so, because this trade is obviously more about the Rams than the Broncos, right? But I think from the Broncos aspect of this, they're not competing to win. They're not going to win a championship this year. It's that simple. Their quarterback situation has still been bad since Peyton Manning left. They just can't seem to get that right. And they got a second and third for a guy on the final year of his contract. Now, they did have to pay him a lot of money, but it'll help them, I guess, quote unquote, tank or just not be as good, maybe get a little better draft position. But they weren't going they might go to the playoffs, but they're not winning anything this year. Von Miller might leave. It's kind of sad that they don't have a proper send-off, really, I guess is my thing. But getting a second and third for a guy who is going to either leave this offseason or you're going to have to pay a lot of money when he's clearly past his prime. I'm not saying he's bad or anything, but, he's getting up there and coming off a major injury. So I feel like the Broncos, they got away fine with doing this, in all honesty. And then the Rams side of things, I think they had to do this trade. Now, we know how special Donald and Ramsey are, but even against the Packers last year, if one of these 2 guys is even dinged up a little, and Aaron Donald was in the playoffs, he was almost a non-factor against the Packers. And the Rams defense did not look like it was the top 5 defense that it was last year. And this year, they've lost a couple pieces. We've mentioned that before, and just a little bit, I guess, less talent or less depth in general in the defense, but it still is sticking together because you have Donald and Ramsey. And we've mentioned it again a bunch of times. They might be the 2 best defensive players in the league, both of them. number 1 and 2, either way you put it, they could be the 2 best. And that helps so much. But adding another third piece who you mentioned has been really, really productive. He's top 10 in pressures this year. So you can obviously tell that he's been uber productive. And now the fact of the matter is you not only have to double team Aaron Donald every play, but you're going to have to double team Von Miller a fair amount as well. Because unless you want one of your probably weaker tackle, because he could line up either side if he wanted to, from going up against Von Miller, good luck with that. Just good luck with that. And then not to mention just the success that even average pass rushers have had across from just being on the line with Donald. You mentioned Dante Fowler. He was okay with the Jags. He had potential. Comes to the Rams, 10 sack season, leaves, and we don't hear about him again. Clay Matthews left the Packers after not being good, gets a bunch of sacks and then gets injured, leaves, don't hear about him again. Leonard Floyd joins. He had a 10 sack season, I want to say, or a good amount of sacks. He did eventually get paid, and he's with them, and that's another good piece for them. But the point is, it almost seems like you can put in any average pass rusher on the Rams opposite of Donald. They're just on the same line, and they're just going to get a lot better stats because you have to put 2 or 3 on Donald every single play. Now imagine what you're going to do with an elite pass rusher like Von Miller and what those results will yield. Well, you not only have that, you have Leonard Floyd as your third guy now, which is, I think, solid right there too. So really, I think this defense needed this. Without this, I would really question this defense against a prime team, like a primetime team in a big game, like we saw the Packers last year and like we saw against the Cardinals this year, because that game really has gone under the radar. But the Cardinals, I mean, to put it lightly, they killed them. It wasn't really close. They scored over 30 with ease. So I think this was a necessary addition and something they had to do for their playoff push.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. And I think a lot of people look at, first things first, a lot of people look at the compensation for Von Miller, what they gave up the second and the third, and they're all up in arms like, oh my God, how can you give that up? But to me, it's what you have to do when you're in a Super Bowl window, right? There's a reason the New England Patriots 2 years ago gave up a second round pick for Mo Sanu. The Niners gave up a third and a fourth for Emmanuel Sanders. This is what you do. And I actually don't think the compensation is that steep. I don't think he's a rental. It looks like the Rams have a good shot at re-signing him. That's already been widely reported. And the other thing is a second and third round pick for a top 10 edge rusher in football. To me, it's a no-brainer. You got to do it. And Von Miller is still really, really good. And you broke down all the reasons why he's going to make them better, especially when they play the teams they're playing. But also, if you look at their defense, right? One of the things that they've been missing, the Rams defense, it's technically sound, but they've been missing a lot of the big negative plays that they used to force to put teams in bad down and distance situations. They're situationally excellent. They're very good in the red zone. They're terrific on fourth down. They're mediocre on third down, but they're situationally a good defense. I think Von Miller is going to give them just a more of and just splash plays from their defense, where it's not just Donald Ramsey. You're going to get more tackles for a loss. You're going to get more sacks, forced fumbles, and these kinds of things. I think it's an incredible move. Again, are we going as far as best team in the NFC or in the NFL? I personally, I don't know if I can go there yet, but like you mentioned, they had to make this move, and I personally don't think the compensation was that steep.
Yeah, I mean, for the Rams, they don't really use their high-end draft picks. They kind of, ever since they took Goff, they haven't taken someone in the first round. So I think they've kind of just been off of that experience of taking a first rounder. But it's fine when you're getting people like Jalen Ramsey, or I mean, they didn't trade a first for Miller, but getting Brandon Cooks, getting guys like that are just, they're already really good. And yeah, you have to pay them, but they draft really well in the later and mid rounds where it makes sense for them. And that's something that not a lot of teams can do, but it works for them. And it kind of has for, it seems like the last 5 years. I remember after they signed Gurley and Cooks, everyone's like, oh no, this team is, this is their win now opportunity. But that win now opportunity has been for 4 years. And I don't think it's really going to close anytime soon. At least that's how it looks, bearing drastic changes.
Yeah, and just one more thing I wanted to add on their philosophy. They seem to be very, very set in on the fact that it's too difficult to draft franchise level players, right? It's too difficult to draft a Jalen Ramsey or people like that in the first round, guys that, are transcendent talents. And they seem to think, okay, we can find role players who can start for us and, play a decent role, and we can develop within our system in this mid rounds. And that's what they've consistently done. They have 13 starters on their current roster, 13 out of 22 that were either drafted by them or signed by signed in as undrafted free agents. But you look at their stars outside of Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald. Robert Woods was a free agent pickup. Andrew Whitworth was a free agent pickup. Matthew Stafford, they got through trade. Jalen Ramsey, they got through trade. So they seem to be set in on this idea of, if there's a star available, we got to trade for him, because it's difficult to draft stars, but we can develop, and we're so good at coaching and we're so good at finding value in terms of our scouting and drafting that we can develop role players. And I think it's a really good philosophy. Maybe they go overboard in it, but I do think it should be the philosophy in the NFL, because it's impossibly difficult to find star players like a Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, definitely. So are they the best team in the NFC or NFL? That's to be seen, but this was a necessary upgrade that they just had to do.